Hi, boys and girls. So, I just taught this lesson live on Zoom, so if you were on there, you don't need to watch it, but if you weren't, here is what we did. First, I want to talk about our high-frequency words that I have written up here. We're going to read a story, too, out of this book, so before you start this video, please have this book in front of you because we are doing a lesson out of Wonders, Unit 5. You should have gotten 2 Wonders books home in your kit, whether you went and picked it up or it was delivered to you. You should have gotten 2 of these, and we are in Unit 5, and we will be for the next couple weeks. So every time we do a Wonders lesson, you'll need this book, and when we finish it, we'll start the next one you got home. Today we're going to read this story. It's called A Barn Full of Hats. It is on page 13, so go ahead and open your book up to this page, as that's the story we're going to be reading. While we read, these are some of our high-frequency words. These are words that would have been spelling words, but since we're not doing spelling tests right now, I just want to kind of highlight them for you. While we read our story today, we are going to circle these words throughout the story. Like I said, I just taught this lesson live on Zoom, so I already have them circled in my book. But as we go, we are going to circle them. So please have this book out, have a pencil out, and follow along. Our first high-frequency word is the word for. O-er. Remember how we talked about when a vowel is next to the letter R, the R dominates it, or the R kind of takes over, and you really only hear the R sound. But you do hear a little bit of the O. O-er, for. But, as you guys know the rule, when 2 vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. So we don't hear the U at all. That rule means that the second vowel is quiet. It is a silent vowel, and in this case it is the U. When 2 vowels are next to each other, usually you only hear the first one. So our first word is for, and that's like the number 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Our second word is large. O-R. There's another one where that R is next to a vowel, so you really only hear the er sound, but large. Remember, we talked about the soft G and the soft C a few weeks before school ended. The G usually makes the g sound. But when the G is next to an E, it makes a j sound. So in this case, it is GE at the end of the word. So the word is large. We also talked about the soft C. Usually a C says k. But when the C is next to an E, it makes a S sound, like an S. In this case, we do have a soft G. The word is large. It's spelled L-A-R-G. Large means big, something that's big. You have a large ball. You have a large house. Large means something big. Our next word is round. Round is like a circle. If something is round, it has a circular shape. Round. O-U. Now, in the word for, O-U, we only heard the O because it followed the vowels rule. But sometimes O-U makes the ow sound, like ow, that hurts. O-U and O-W both make the ow sound. And in this word, in the word round, you can hear the O or the ow sound in that word. So sometimes when we're reading and we see 2 vowels next to each other, we have to try a couple different sounds. It's that way with a lot of letters. Sometimes there's a couple different sounds it might make, and so when we're reading and we're trying to decode a word and we're trying to figure out a word, we might have to try some different sounds, and this is one of those times. So if you read it like owned, roaned, because when 2 vowels go walking, the first one does the talking, and my O is my first vowel, so that would make sense. But in this case, it makes the ow sound. You would know that roaned, I've never heard that word, so I know that it's not a real word, so I know that that can't be what it says. So the word is round. Ow, nd. Our next word is put. P-ut. Put, P-U-T. That's a pretty easy one. Our next word is none. N-O-N-E, like she has none, she doesn't have any. And then our last word is only. Only. So, while we read our story, we are going to look for those words and circle them. Our essential question for this week, for our Wonders lesson this week, and the students should know what essential questions are because we did them all year. Our essential question is, how can we classify or categorize things? Those are both pretty big words. Classify and categorize. I don't know what those words mean. Classify and categorize, they kind of mean the same thing. It just means to sort something or to organize something based on a type. So, for example, we're going to read a story about barn animals today. So animals that you would see on a farm. So like, for example, when we went on our field trip in October, we went to a barn and we saw cows and horses and goats and chickens, pigs. Those are all animals that you would see on a farm. Those are all animals that we would see living in a barn. So we could classify or categorize those animals as farm animals. We could classify or categorize those animals as animals that you would see living on a farm or in a barn. And then we could look at different kinds of animals. Animals that maybe you have as a pet. Animals that you could keep in your house as a pet. So a dog, a cat, a hamster, maybe a turtle, maybe a fish. Those are animals that you could keep in your house as a pet. So we could make that a category. We could make a category of sea animals, so animals that swim. A fish, which also could have been a pet. Sometimes they're going to be in multiple categories. But a fish, a dolphin, a shark, a whale, those are all animals that we would see in the water. So when we classify or categorize, that means we are taking something and we are sorting it by its type. Doesn't necessarily have to be an animal. If you had 10 flowers, you could sort them by color. You could sort them by what kind of flower they were. There are different ways that we can sort things. So that was just an example. So we are going to read our story today. It is called A Barn Full of Hats. So open your book up to that page. This story is a fiction story. The way that I know that, the way I can tell, is that, first of all, this is a drawn picture. We talked about how usually when we're reading a nonfiction story, it's going to be real pictures. And we're going to learn real facts, and it's going to be things that happen in real life. But I see in this picture, if I'm making a prediction, if it's fiction or non, I see in this picture farm animals that are drawn, and they don't look real. That's not how farm animals really look. And I see that all of them are wearing hats. And I know that in real life, animals don't wear hats. So I know that this story is going to be a fiction story, and it's actually a fantasy fiction story. So that means that the animals are probably going to talk, and they're going to do things that usually only people do in real life. So after we read our story, we are going to talk about the horse and the cat, and we're going to talk about something that we learned about those animals in this story. So go ahead, you should flip your page to be on this page. I'm going to start over here at the bottom of page 14. It says, one day, I'll try to hold it up for you guys. This is harder than I thought it would be. One day, 4, you can go ahead and circle that word because that's one of our frequency words. One day, 4 farm animals found a box in the barn. They opened it up. What was inside? Hats, hats, and more hats. So they found a box in their barn that had a bunch of hats in it. Make sure you circle that high frequency word 4. And if I'm going too fast, you can pause it and read it over how many times as you would like. And you should have this book in front of you. Look at all those hats. Who wants one? Asked 10. I do, cried Horse. It's smart to wear a hat. A hat will keep the sun out of my eyes. So Horse wants a hat that will keep the sun out of his eyes. That's what Horse is looking for. Next page. Let's mark it down. Go ahead and flip your page. You should be on page 16. Hen stuck her head in the box. She pulled out a flat, round hat. Remember, round is another one of our high frequency words. Round means that it's circle. It's like a circle. Try this hat, Hen told Horse. No, that hat is too flat, said Horse. A flat hat makes a good nest, clucked Hen. So she took the hat and she marched away. Sorry, I'm trying to read it upside down and backwards. She took the hat and she marched away. So Hen took the round hat. Make sure you circle that word round. Our next page. Pig pushed his head in the box. He pulled out a bright red hat. Put on this hat, Pig told Horse. No, that hat is too red, said Horse. A red hat looks fine, grunted Pig. So he put on the hat and he marched away. So Pig put on the red baseball hat. So Hen took the round horse, Pig took the red baseball hat, and Hen took the round hat, Pig found a baseball hat, and Horse still hasn't found a hat that he likes to keep the sun out of his eyes. Just see a sight word I missed. Okay, next page. We should be on page 18. Cat poked her head in the box. She pulled out a thick yarn hat. Try this hat, Cat told Horse. No, that hat is too thick, said Horse. So he didn't want that hat because it was too thick. Maybe it'd keep him too warm. Thick yarn is nice, said Cat. I will take the whole hat apart so I can play with the yarn. She dragged the hat away. So Cat wanted a hat that she could take apart to play with. She likes to play with the yarn. So many hats, but none for me, sighed Horse. None is another one of our high frequency words, so you can circle that. And I also see the word whole up here is highlighted. That's a vocab word. Whole. Whole means all of it. She's going to take all of the hat apart. Page 20. Just then, Farmer Clark came in the barn. His hat was large and floppy. If only I had that hat, said Horse. That hat will shade my eyes. Horse grabbed the hat in his teeth. So Horse took that hat right off the farmer's head. Farmer Clark laughed. He put the hat on Horse. It stayed on with no trouble. It fits well, Farmer Clark said. Horse trotted to the barnyard. Clip, clop, that's the sound his heels made. He held his head high. Yes, this is the hat for me, said Horse. So Horse finally found a hat. It wasn't in the box. He took it right off that farmer's head. So now I'm going to have you guys flip your book to page 25. And the two characters that we are going to talk about are Cat and Horse. So I have those written up here on the board. And this is how it should be written. If you want to draw that line in the middle, you can, but those are the two characters we're going to talk about. We had more characters than that. We had Horse was our main character. We had Cat. There was Pig, he took the red hat. Hen, who took the round hat. And the farmer, who the horse took the hat from. But the two animals that I want to focus on are Horse and Cat. So go ahead, pause the video here if you need to, and copy down in your chart on page 25, Horse and Cat. Pause the video and do that now because I'm going to keep going. So let's talk about what we learned about those two animals. I'm going to flip back in the book, and you guys can if you want to, or you can stay on your page. But I want to look at page 15 because I want to know, what did we learn about horse? What was horse looking for? Think about that. Horse wanted a certain kind of hat. What kind of hat did he want? So let me read it back to you. On page 15 it says, "Look at all those hats. Who wants one?" asked Hen. "I do," cried Horse. "It's smart to wear a hat. A hat will keep the sun out of my eyes." So that tells me that Horse wanted a hat to keep the sun out of his eyes. He wanted a hat that would go like this to protect his eyes from the sun. So on that chart on your page, and I'll show it in a minute, but on that chart on your page, I want you to write under the What We Learned section, next to Horse, write, he wanted a hat to keep his eyes out of the sun. He wanted to protect his eyes from the sun. So I'm going to zoom this in so that you can see it, to write it on your chart. Go ahead and pause the video right here so that you can get that written down, and then unpause it when you're ready to go on. The next animal that I wanted to focus on was cat, and what kind of hat Cat wanted, and what she did with the hat that she got. If you remember, I'm going to reread it for us, but think back. Try and think back. What did Cat do with the hat she got in? Or hat she got. Got it is not a word. Okay, I'm going to read it back to you. It says, "Thick yarn is nice," said Cat. "I will take the whole hat apart." Remember, we said whole means all of it. She's going to take all of the hat apart, the whole hat apart, so that I can play with the yarn. And she dragged the hat away. So Cat didn't even want her hat to share. That's the hat she got. She didn't even want her hat to wear. She found that hat and thought, I can take this apart and use it for something else. She wanted to play with it. So Cat wanted a hat, a yarn hat, we'll say. A yarn hat to play with. And I'll zoom that in. You can go ahead and pause your video right there and copy that down. That's what you should have on your chart. We talked about horse, cat, and the kinds of hats that they wanted. We could have talked about hen. Hen had a round hat, and she wanted that round hat because it was good for her nest. And then pig, we talked about, got the red hat just because he liked the color red. That was the one he wanted because he liked red. He thought red was a good color, so that was what he picked. So that's it on our Wonders lesson today. If you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know. I can be available on Zoom or through Class Dojo, whatever's easiest for you. Just let me know. And then tomorrow we will do a math lesson. So tomorrow you'll need the math book I sent home. In that kit you got home, there should have been your Wonders Unit 5 and Wonders Unit 6 book and your math book. A couple of you got phonics books if you hadn't finished your phonics book at school already. Some of you had letters in your book. If you didn't have a letter in your kit, that means that you gave me your address, so I mailed one to you. But all of you should have gotten a letter some way or another, whether it was in that kit or I mailed it to you. And that's that. So tomorrow when you log on to YouTube, make sure you have your math book with you. If you want, I also teach this lesson live on Zoom, so if you want to do it live and ask questions as we go, that is also an option. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.